A single off-the-cuff comment at a private Ascot after-party sent shockwaves through the palace. Laura Lopes, daughter of Queen Camilla, dismissed Princess Anne as a leftover from the last monarchy. The remark leaked online, went viral, and instantly enraged Prince William, igniting a family scandal that threatened to fracture the royal legacy. An off-mic comment that ignited a royal war. It was meant to be a quiet celebration. The horse racing elite had gathered at a private Ascot after-party, tucked away behind velvet ropes in a wood-paneled salon near the edge of the track grounds. The champagne never stopped flowing. No cameras, no reporters, just murmured gossip, silver platters, and the kind of expensive laughter that only comes from old money and old secrets. Inside, royals, aristocrats, and close friends of the crown mingled freely. It was, by design, an off-the-record affair. But then, a single sentence slipped out, caught by a mic no one remembered was still hot. "Anne's just a leftover from the last monarchy." The voice was Laura Lopes, daughter of Queen Camilla. She said it casually, half laughing, holding a glass of something expensive in one hand, gesturing toward a group near the window. Her tone wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. She didn't know that the broadcast technician, packing up his gear nearby, had accidentally left his input channel live. And she definitely didn't know that his headset was still transmitting into the main feed relay, a feed that someone was still monitoring. It was over in seconds, but the words were already on tape. By 9 a.m. the next morning, the audio had leaked, raw, uncut, and already moving through newsroom group chats, WhatsApp threads, and palace inboxes. Editors played it on loop. One journalist tweeted a short transcript with the caption, "Did Camilla's daughter just call Princess Anne a leftover?" The reaction was instant. Shock turned to scandal. Within 2 hours, it was a trending headline across British media. Laura Lopes mocked Princess Anne, caught on tape. Leftover royal? Outrage as Camilla's daughter insults the Princess Royal. Royal staff scrambled. PR teams made calls. Lawyers reviewed the broadcast rights, but it was already out. Screenshots flooded social media. Palace aides issued a soft no comment, hoping to freeze the narrative. But it was too late. The fire was spreading. And then came the moment that changed everything. Princess Anne, known for her discipline, routine, and iron will, was at Gatcombe Park eating breakfast when the audio reached her. According to a senior staff member, she listened to the clip in full, just once. She paused mid-bite, laid her spoon down on the saucer. No emotion on her face, just quiet. When the recording finished, she reached for her napkin, pushed the phone aside, and resumed eating. She didn't speak, didn't scowl, didn't even raise an eyebrow. But the silence? It chilled the room. Because everyone in that room understood one thing. Anne doesn't react with noise. She responds with precision. And one thing was now certain. Mocking Anne wasn't just foolish, it was dangerous. Social media backlash. You don't touch Anne. The internet did what the palace couldn't. It roared. By midday, Twitter/X was on fire. The phrase, "You don't touch Anne," became a rallying cry. Thousands shared tributes, old video clips, and iconic photos of Princess Anne in uniform, on horseback, and at state functions. One tweet summed it up best. "She told a kidnapper to get lost, and works harder than half the family. Who the hell is Laura Lopes?" That sentiment echoed across platforms. Clips resurfaced of Anne's 1974 attempted kidnapping, where she famously refused to get out of her car at gunpoint. The public remembered her not just as the Queen's daughter, but as a woman who earned her place through decades of duty. In contrast, Laura Lopes, a name unfamiliar to many until now, was quickly picked apart. Internet sleuths uncovered that Laura had no royal title, had completed 0 public service duties, and had reportedly declined multiple requests to represent the crown at charity events. Meanwhile, her luxury lifestyle, her appearances at exclusive art galas, and her high-end brand partnerships painted a clear picture: privilege without service. The hashtags trended globally. Hashtag respect Anne, hashtag keep Laura out, and hashtag Princess Royal Power. It wasn't just backlash, it was branding, and Laura had become the face of something Anne never was: entitlement. By evening, Laura had deleted all her social media accounts, but it didn't stop the flood. It was never just about one comment. It was about the line that should never have been crossed. And now, Anne wasn't just watching. She was preparing. Anne breaks her silence, but with precision. 3 days after the audio leak, Princess Anne made a rare public appearance at a veterans commemoration event in Portsmouth. Dressed in full uniform, she stood at the podium, her posture razor straight. No mention of the scandal, no reference to names, but her words cut through the noise like a blade. "Some forget," she said, "that service is not inherited, it's earned." The crowd applauded, but inside royal circles, the silence after that sentence was deafening. No one needed a name. The message was aimed directly at Laura Lopes, and everyone knew it. Back at Clarence's house, Camilla was already scrambling. She reached out privately, requesting Anne accept a formal apology from Laura. Anne didn't even take the call herself. Her response was relayed through her senior aide: "This isn't about an apology, it's about what's festering beneath." That same afternoon, Anne quietly ordered her aide to begin reviewing records, specifically any internal decisions involving Camilla or her children, particularly Laura. It wasn't a revenge move. It was a containment protocol. Anne wasn't just reacting. She was preparing to defend the monarchy's foundation. The dress loan that should never have happened. The file landed on Anne's desk within 48 hours. Inside was a short memo, routine on the surface, but attached was a photo that made her sit up. Laura Lopes, standing in a private London gala in 2022, wearing a deep blue vintage sapphire gown. Not just any gown. A gown once worn by Princess Diana, long thought to be stored in the Royal Wardrobe Archives under preservation protocol. Anne didn't speak for several seconds. The document confirmed it. The gown had been loaned quietly, authorized solely by Queen Camilla. No sign-off from the Royal Wardrobe Trust, no entry logged into the official fashion archive, and no public acknowledgement a royal heirloom had been used off the record. Then came the second blow. The event wasn't just a gala. Paparazzi photos revealed Laura mingling with senior reps from 2 luxury fashion houses. The implication was clear: a quiet branding opportunity, with Diana's gown as the centerpiece. To Anne, it wasn't just tasteless, it was sacrilege. "This wasn't fashion," she told a senior aide. "It was theater, staged on my brother's wife's grave." She knew what the public didn't. The sapphire gown had once been marked, "Do not reassign," after Diana's death. A piece preserved by William's request, tied to memories of his mother's final years. Now it had been worn, photographed, and turned into a backdrop for champagne toasts. Anne didn't make a scene. She didn't brief the press. She forwarded everything, photos, documents, and her own handwritten note to Prince William. The message was short, but it said everything. "They're playing dress-up with your mother's legacy." William is pulled into the fire. The envelope arrived in silence. It came by direct courier. No email, no aid, just Princess Anne's personal crest stamped into thick cream paper. It was left unopened on Prince William's desk at Kensington Palace until he returned from a morning engagement. He recognized the seal instantly. Anne didn't send letters unless it mattered. Inside were 3 photographs, 2 documents, and a short handwritten note, just 2 sentences long. As William flipped through the contents, his heart dropped. In the first photo, Laura Lopes stood in a marble hall, surrounded by guests and photographers, a crystal glass in hand. She was wearing it. Diana's sapphire gown, his mother's dress, a piece he hadn't seen since 1997, when it was carefully folded, preserved, and sealed in the royal wardrobe's restricted vault. Per his private request, it had been treated not as fashion, but as memory. Sacred memory. His hands froze. He stared at the stitching, the neckline, the distinct sapphire hue that was unmistakable in photographs. It wasn't a replica. It was the original. The note from Anne read, "They're playing dress-up with your mother's legacy. I thought you should see it first." William didn't breathe for a moment. Then he walked the file into the next room where Catherine was reviewing briefing notes. He placed the photo in front of her. She looked down, just once, and her lips parted. "That's one of hers," she said softly, but with certainty. She pointed to the shoulder. The embroidery had been stitched by hand in 1986, something Diana had once pointed out in an old photo album Catherine had memorized long ago. There was no mistaking it. This wasn't coincidence. It was personal. William sat down slowly. His face didn't move, but his jaw tightened. His mother's private wardrobe had been guarded by trust, and now someone had reached into it. For clout, for PR, for status. "They're not just disrespecting my mother," he said through clenched teeth. "They're profiting off her." He opened the second document. It was a wardrobe approval form, signed by Camilla. No Royal Archives stamp, no committee sign-off. Just Camilla's personal authorization, bypassing every known protocol. William stood up. He paced to the window, then turned back toward the desk. The fury in his chest wasn't theatrical. It was rooted in grief, violation, and a betrayal that crossed more than just generational lines. By that evening, William had summoned his legal advisor and 2 senior aides to his private office. The order was clear. "Audit the entire wardrobe, everything that belonged to my mother. I want a full report. Names, dates, who took what, when, view." This was no longer about a dress. It was about boundaries broken, trust violated, and a mother's legacy that had been treated like costume jewelry. William wasn't just angry. He was about to make sure it never happened again. Camilla tries to bury the truth. The fallout hit Clarence's house like a wave, silent at first, then roaring through every corridor. Within 24 hours, word of William's internal audit reached Camilla's senior private secretary. That same evening, Camilla was briefed. Anne and William were now coordinating. The phrase alone sent a jolt through the room. She knew what that meant. This was no longer a wardrobe dispute. This was a full-scale power shift. By midnight, she called an emergency meeting with her crisis PR team. The fireplace was lit, the curtains drawn. Inside the drawing room, 5 advisors sat in tense silence as Camilla read a pre-approved draft statement aloud. It painted the loan of the gown as A sentimental gesture, a nod to Diana's memory and Laura's position as goddaughter to the late Princess of Wales. The tone was soft, polished, and careful. A family matter, not a scandal. That was the angle, but it was too late. The press wasn't buying it. Neither was the palace. Just as the statement went out, screenshots of private text messages began surfacing. Leaked from within Laura's own circle, the messages were sent weeks before the gala. In one, Laura joked with a friend about the dress. "Mummy said I could wear the dead princess dress, ha 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 ha." It was cold, thoughtless, and devastating. Within hours, it was front-page news. "Dead princess dress" was the new headline, and the story spiraled into something much darker. Royal correspondents were stunned, royal fans were livid. And inside the palace, chat groups exploded. Staff, who had once remained strictly neutral, were now taking sides. One aide called the atmosphere nuclear. Another whispered to a colleague, "They touched Diana. There's no walking that back." By noon, Clarence House was flooded with press requests. Photographers camped outside. News vans circled nearby. Camilla stayed inside, curtains drawn, her team in full lockdown mode. But the real panic came when it was confirmed the leak had come from inside Laura's circle. Someone close, someone trusted, now quietly feeding information to the press and royal aides. The betrayal stung. The control was gone. Feeling the ground shift beneath her, Camilla did something she hadn't done in years. She picked up the phone and called Princess Anne directly. No press, no titles, just a desperate, quiet plea. "Please," she said, her voice thin and tired. "Don't drag the family through this. We can contain it. Together." Anne didn't yell. She didn't even pause. Her voice was calm, cold, final. "You already did." Then she hung up. No follow-up, no forgiveness. Just silence, and the distant sound of a crown cracking. Because in the monarchy, you don't just guard the jewels, you guard the memory of those who wore them. And Camilla had let Laura cross the line. Now there was no pulling her back. The public backlash reignites. This time, it's nuclear. The leaked messages hit the tabloids like a hammer to glass. Dead princess dress wasn't just a headline, it became a cultural eruption. The phrase splashed across morning papers in thick black print, alongside an unfiltered screenshot of Laura Lopes' infamous text. The smirking line, "Mummy said I could wear the dead princess dress," was now etched into public outrage. By 8 a.m., it was already trending across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and even Reddit threads, usually silent on royal matters. The mood had shifted. This wasn't a scandal, it was a movement. Across social media, hashtags surged. Hashtag Diana deserved better. Hashtag not your legacy. Hashtag dead princess dress. And hashtag protect the princess royal. Comments poured in by the thousands. People weren't just angry. They were heartbroken, disgusted, and above all, done with Camilla's circle. Outside Clarence House, a crowd began to gather. It started with 5 people, then 15. By noon, over 100. Young, mostly in their 20s and 30s, holding signs that read, "Diana deserved better." "Legacy isn't a costume. We choose Anne. Where's the respect?" They were quiet, but their silence said more than chants ever could. Online, memes exploded. One viral TikTok showed Princess Anne walking alongside soldiers in fatigues, cut against an image of Laura posing in heels at a gala, with the caption, "One serves, one shops." Another meme gained traction. Anne as a lion, regal and fierce. Laura as a nervous teacup poodle, trembling in designer fur. Brutal, but effective. Photos of Anne during military inspections, relief missions, and state tours resurfaced, paired with quotes from her speeches about service, loyalty, and discipline. Suddenly, she wasn't just respected. She was lionized, and the press followed. Major outlets like The Times, The Guardian, and The Telegraph ran scorching editorials. One columnist called Camilla's silence an insult to Diana's memory. Another declared Laura unfit for royal association and questioned how someone with no public service record had ever been granted access to royal archives at all. Even longtime royal-friendly media turned. A Sunday editor, known for towing the palace line, wrote, "If the monarchy wants to survive the next generation, it's time to center the ones who've earned their place. That is not Camilla. That is not Laura." The numbers reflected the mood. Within 48 hours, Camilla's favorability dropped below 20%, the lowest since 2005, during the most controversial days of her relationship with Charles. Meanwhile, Princess Anne's ratings surged, and public calls to fast-track William and Catherine's leadership hit record levels. The palace remained silent. No statements, no spin, just locked gates and pulled curtains. But while Clarence House tried to contain the explosion, Anne was already moving, not with noise, but with action. Behind the scenes, she had activated one of the monarchy's oldest and most powerful levers. And what came next would change everything, not just for Camilla, but for the royal family's future. The Royal Wardrobe Tribunal. The meeting was held in the oldest wing of Windsor Castle, behind heavy oak doors and under portraits of queens and kings long gone. Few even remembered that the Royal Wardrobe Preservation Board still existed. Most had assumed it was ceremonial, an ancient relic, like so many dusty titles buried beneath the pomp. But Princess Anne remembered. And on this day, she brought it back to life. As Princess Royal and lifelong patron of the Royal Archives, Anne held the authority to summon an emergency tribunal. No press briefings, no media alerts. Just a discreet royal memo circulated to the 9 sitting members, historians, archivists, legal advisors, and 2 senior royals. The board had not met in full session for over a decade. But now, they gathered around the table like they were preparing for battle. Anne arrived first, unflinching, formal. She carried with her a slim folder and a single-typed document, her motion. She didn't preface it with a speech. She didn't need to. The language was sharp and final.
To formally restrict access to the wardrobe of Diana, Princess of Wales, and to prevent its usage, borrowing, or display by any individual not of direct lineal descent, effective immediately.
The room tensed. It wasn't just a motion. It was a line in the sand. One member hesitated. Another asked whether this might be interpreted as a public rebuke of the Queen Consort's family. Anne met their gaze without blinking. This is not about image. This is about preservation. We are not stewards of scandal. We are guardians of legacy. The vote was called. 7 in favor, 2 opposed. Prince William didn't speak, but when the room looked to him, he gave a single nod, slow, deliberate. That was enough. The motion passed. Effective immediately, Camilla and her descendants, including Laura Lopes, were banned from accessing Diana's archived wardrobe. No future requests would be approved. No existing loans would be honored. and every item previously loaned would be reviewed, recalled, or permanently frozen. Within hours, Laura's name was pulled from all upcoming royal fashion-related appearances, scheduled partnerships, speaking engagements, even charity galas tied to royal fashion were stripped from her calendar. Invitations were rescinded. Designers backed out. Her digital media deals, many of which were tied to her growing online fashion presence, collapsed overnight. Sponsors vanished. Mentions were deleted. And Anne wasn't finished. She personally ordered the recovery of the sapphire gown, the one worn by Diana, loaned without permission, and used as a prop in a PR stunt. It was returned to Windsor, professionally cleaned, and placed in a temperature-controlled chamber in the royal archives. A new tag was attached by hand, signed by the chief archivist in dark ink.
Do not reassign, by order of Princess Royal.
No drama, no outburst, just order. Anne left the room quietly, her mission complete. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't made a statement. She didn't need to, because the message was now permanent. The dressing up was over. This was history, and Anne had reclaimed it. Family. Fallout. Camilla is silenced. Laura steps back. There was no press conference, no grand statement, no staged apology. Instead, Laura Lopes released a 2-line announcement through her personal assistant. Due to health reasons, I will be stepping back from public appearances. I appreciate your privacy at this time. It was a retreat in everything but name. Her scheduled partnerships were cancelled. Invitations to public events, royal or private, vanished. Her name was quietly removed from fashion campaigns she once fronted. Behind palace doors, staff were instructed, no briefings, no comment, no mention. As for Camilla, the blow came swiftly and quietly. She was dropped from the upcoming Commonwealth Tour, a cornerstone event she had spent months preparing for. In her place, Catherine, Princess of Wales. The announcement was made without fanfare, but it said everything. Inside the palace, her power faded. Fewer calls, no consultations. Her schedule was trimmed to minimal ceremonial duty. Her name was pulled from internal planning memos. No one dared call it a demotion, but that's exactly what it was. The Queen was now Queen in title only. Even King Charles, long her most loyal defender, had shifted. He said nothing publicly, but in private, those closest to him began to notice. He wasn't including her in sensitive decisions. Her opinion no longer carried weight. And when Princess Anne delivered her final update on the Wardrobe Tribunal, Charles's only words were, "You were right. Again." The last word, a letter from Anne to William. Weeks passed. The headlines moved on, but the silence inside palace walls spoke louder than ever. Camilla remained out of sight. Laura was gone entirely, and the rest of the family carried on, tighter, leaner, and quieter. One afternoon, Prince William received a letter. Handwritten, no seal, just a familiar cursive in black ink. It was from Anne. "We defend legacy not for the past," it read, "but for the future. And some things are too sacred to be shared." There were no orders, no complaints, just truth. William read the letter twice, then placed it gently on a shelf beside his mother's portrait. Princess Diana, forever captured in grace, wearing the same sapphire gown that had caused so much destruction, and yet now rested safely in the archives where it belonged. Laura Lopes was never seen at another royal event again. Camilla kept her title but lost her place. Her public voice, gone. Her access shut down. She now moved only in shadows, with no influence and no stage. And Princess Anne? She never gave another interview. She never raised her voice. She simply continued to serve. And in the end, it wasn't William or Charles or Catherine who restored the monarchy's dignity. It was the woman everyone underestimated, the one who needed no crown to lead. The Princess Royal, unshaken, unmoved, unbreakable. The damage was swift and irreversible. Laura Lopes retreated from public life, Camilla lost influence, and Princess Anne solidified her role as the monarchy's backbone. William placed the past and family honor above all, ensuring that Diana's legacy and royal dignity were defended, silently, decisively, and permanently.